The big picture is the future need in India for the mineral and the oil and gas resources. And there'll be a sequence of approvals that will be required that period of time.
70% of our capital is spent on growth. And what we're really working on is to make sure that the growth pipeline is filled well.
Again, shareholders get a preference share valued at 10 rupees, which is redeemable after 18 months of issuance. We will issue this on when the merger gets effected, and it will be listed on NYSE.
Well, Anil Agarwal walks the corridors of power a day after taking the first step towards a mega consolidation of his group's businesses. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Hi, Nantara. You've been meeting the top brass of Kane and Vedanta.
Well, I would just like to say it's been great breaking the story first as far as the merger goes, and I think we'll have to keep at it till March of 2016 because that's when we expect the closure.
It is going to take a while, but congratulations on getting that story right. CEOs of both companies say the swap ratio factors in the potential $3 billion tax hit that Kane may have to take. They also confirmed that Kane's cash pile will be used not just for expansion but also to reduce debt. And mergers clearly seem to be the flavor of the season. Here is a look at the other headlines that we're tracking tonight. Russian telecom major Sistema is in talks with Anil Ambani's Reliance Communications to merge operations. Sistema operates in 9 circles in India and has 10 million subscribers.
A steady start to the week on Dalal Street despite some late jitters. Nifty reclaims 8,000. The Sensex gains over 160 points. Mid-caps underperformed.
Global markets plunge after talks between Greece and its lenders collapse for the second time. European markets lose 2%. Shares in Greece crash over 5%. Wall Street opens with sharp cuts.
Diesel gets cheaper by a rupee a litre, but petrol prices continue to rise, up by over 64 paise. This is the third hike in just the last 2 months.
Wholesale prices continue to contract for the 7th straight month. WPI in May stands at -2.36%. Food prices under control, but pulses see a sharp spike. Manufactured products still in deflation territory.
Indigo firms up its plans to fly into the Dalal Street, will file a draft red herring prospectus by the end of the month, and listing is by the end of this year. That's an exclusive.
After the US and UK, Australia and New Zealand start probing Maggi noodles, Nestle expects a 300 crore rupee hit due to its recall in India.
We are looking forward to building a very large portfolio, both in wind and solar.
The Vice Chairman of ILNFS, Hari Sankaran, is planning to ramp up the company's power investments. Also bets big on the renewable energy segment. That's another exclusive.
Pressure mounts on Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj. Rahul Gandhi seeks her resignation and accuses the Prime Minister of shielding Lalit Modi, but a united BJP rallies behind her in support.
West Bengal looks to shed its bad image among industry over land acquisition. The state is drawing up a new township policy for the industry. A special report from Kolkata coming up. And the job market is booming. India will offer the most jobs and the best salary hikes this year among Asia-Pacific countries. How fatter can your wallet get? Stay tuned to find out. But this is the big story that we've been tracking. After setting the stage for a mega merger yesterday, the managements of Kane and Vedanta got cracking. The group's chairman Anil Agarwal met with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan then met the Finance Minister post that meeting. Remember, LIC is one of the biggest minority shareholders. In a bid to get its approval, we understand that Kane and Vedanta officials did meet LIC officials as well. Nantara gets you all the exclusive details.
That's Vedanta's top boss, Anil Agarwal, entering North Block to meet Finance Minister Arun Jaitley a day after the boards of Vedanta Limited and Kane India approved a merger with a 1:1 swap ratio and the issuance of one redeemable preference share for every share held of Kane India. The two boards are hoping to close the deal by the 4th quarter of this fiscal, and by then hope to get all regulatory approvals from the High Courts, Petroleum Ministry and the FIPB.
We have told them that this is the merger of, we have also told them in advance We told them today also, just to appraise them, update of merger of Vedanta Limited and Kane India. Also, it was general update that we are trying to create a natural resource company in India. We have also mentioned about the retrospective tax, because when tax demand came on us on the basis of the withholding tax, the year they have mentioned, and that those year the law was not there to deduct the TDS. So the matter is in the courts, the matter is sub judice. So we have left at that place.
Even as Anil Agarwal was walking the corridors of power, top executives of Vedanta and Kane were meeting LIC to seek its blessing for the merger. LIC is Kane India's largest minority shareholder with a 9.1% stake in the company.
We met with the analysts over the course of the day yesterday, and I think I've been encouraged by the positive response.
Yeah, good response. And what people were most concerned about is does Kane's growth story in terms of focus on oil and gas, does it remain unchanged? And the brief answer is yes. So it was an affirmation of expectations in that. So we're pleased with that.
But Tom, yesterday you kept saying this merger is because you want simplification, diversification, hedge commodity risks, etc. What about Kane India's cash? It's also got like more than 17,000 crore rupees in cash. You get undebted access to that cash now.
Well, again, the valuations that would have been held, and they were done on the basis of best practice global governance, would have assessed the valuation of cash, would have assessed the valuation of the respective balance sheets. So again, it would have been fairly assessed in the valuation multiples that were what the board approved and what we presented yesterday.
So what is the game plan as far as the cash and the cash reserves go?
I think it's very important to recognize that Mayak will be spending capital this year, and he'll also be generating cash from his operations.
But you only plan to spend $500 million, and that's after scaling down the capex.
And so if you look at what we're going to do across the board, we'll be looking at the best opportunities about 9 months from now, which is around the time that we'll be having completion of this. So again, I don't want to predict the future, but the intention is to invest in growth. The intention is to continue to increase the dividend to all the shareholders. And again, we have said time and time again, before this transaction was approved, that the intention of Vedanta Limited is to delever, which is exactly what we did last year in volatile market conditions. While we were seeing investments in Kane and other parts of the business, we brought down the debt in Vedanta Limited last year.
So you do confirm that some of the cash will be used for deleveraging the Vedanta balance sheet, for refinancing?
We will look at the best opportunities, and as we said yesterday, that we already have plans well advanced. Our CFO said yesterday we'll be extending the term of our debt over the course of the year, independent of this transaction.
How much debt would you want to extend?
I think we'll look at what the maturities are, and we'll present them accordingly.
And you're okay taking on that tax liability of more than $3 billion?
The valuations would have taken into consideration the tax liability. We will be resisting that, as we've said. Kane has been doing that in the Indian courts, and we're looking at that international arbitration. That will continue independent of this announced merger.
Okay, so you think that has already been factored into the swap ratio and the possibility of maybe one day having to pay that tax liability. Is that fair to the Vedanta shareholders?
Well, again, what we're presenting is something that has to be approved by both the Kane shareholders and the Vedanta shareholders. So it would have to be seen to be fair to all shareholders.
Are you confident of getting the minority shareholders on board?
Yes, I think the proposition we have outlined is compelling from a strategy perspective, and from a valuation perspective, there was a very good governance process. The two boards struck independent valuators. They use a variety of valuation methodologies. So we have followed best practices, and I think when the minority shareholders look at it in the fullness of time, and not just the next 30 days, but what this offers to them, I think the value is compelling. Yes.
How is the redeemable preference shares going to work out?
I believe they have an 18-month maturity.
Basically, 18-month maturity, 7.5% note. If someone wants to sell them soon, we will have the mechanism in there so they can sell them at par, or they can hold them for 18 months, generate the 7.5% return, and it will be do in a way which will be efficient for those shareholders. What we wanted to do was present something to the shareholders of Kane India that they see as valuable and compelling. So that's exactly what we've done.
Venture brokerage firm CLSA today come out with a report saying it's interesting to see the minority shareholders actually approve. They don't expect the minority shareholders to approve. And if they don't approve, they see a 40 to 50% upside to the Kane India stock. How do you react to that?
We'll see what happens as it happens.
Kane India's merger with Vedanta is step one of the mega restructuring plan conceived by Anil Agarwal. Phase 2 will involve consolidation with 8ZL and Badco. But that is still a long way off till the government decides on auctioning its residual stake in the two companies. In New Delhi, Naitara Rai.
Now, brokerages were almost united in cheering the mega merger between Kane and Vedanta, but there are a few who remain apprehensive. Most analysts feel the deal will be positive for Vedanta. Some raise doubts over whether the positives for Kane will make up for the dilution in its cash pile. Kritika Saxena and Nigel D'Souza get you that story.
The proposed merger between Kane and Vedanta seems to have gotten a seal of approval from most analysts on the Lal Street. However, experts tracking Vedanta seem to be happier than those tracking Kane India. Here's the word on what this merger may mean for Vedanta. Rating agency Standard & Poor's believes that a merger with Kane India can reduce downside risk for Vedanta. S&P says, and I quote, "In our view, the financial performance of Vedanta Resources PLC would gradually strengthen because of greater cash fungibility and improving cash flow adequacy and leverage after the merger," unquote. The Vedanta stock is a buy according to analysts at Axis Bank, their target price being 237 rupees per share. Analysts say the merger provides immense financial flexibility as Vedanta will have access to Kane's $2.7 billion cash pile and annual EBITDA of $1 billion. Axis believes that the deal will also be positive for Kane shareholders as the diversified earnings of the combined entity will probably trigger a re-rating of the stock in coming months. Another optimistic voice is that of Credit Suisse. The brokerage house maintains its outperform rating on the Vedanta stock with a target price of 253 rupees per share. That was Vedanta. Views on Kane India are slightly more mixed. For instance, while CLSA has upgraded the stock to a buy with a target price of 250 rupees per share, it raises doubts on whether the merger will actually go through. The brokerage in fact believes that a rejection of the proposed merger by shareholders may drive a 40 to 50% surge in the Kane stock. UBS maintains its buy view on Kane with a target price of 210 rupees per share. The brokerage house is slightly disappointed with the merger ratio and says it's insufficient to make up for the dilution in Kane's cash pile. Barclays is overweight on Kane India with a target price of 275 rupees per share. However, it does maintain that the deal may be disappointing for Kane's minority shareholders. In Mumbai with Nigel D'Souza, Kritika Saxena.
Well, that's the latest there as far as the Kane-Vedanta merger is concerned. And mergers clearly seem to be the flavor of the season after Kane and Vedanta. Here's the big story from Telecom. Russia's Sistema has confirmed that it has initiated talks for a merger with Anil Ambani's Reliance Communications. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 the potential deal will not involve any cash and it will be done through a share swap. Sources also say that Sistema, the government of Russia and Sham Group, will own between an 8 to 10% stake in the combined entity. We also understand that Sistema executives were in India last week and are keen to exit. The debt on Sistema's books seems to be the main bone of contention as far as Reliance Communication is concerned. They don't want to take this on. Sistema's debt stands at over $540 million as on March end this year. The company also wrote off assets worth over $190 million last year. Now, amidst all the buzz, both companies insist that discussions are only indicative and will not be binding in nature. So why exactly are these two companies looking to merge their businesses? What are the synergies? Rima is standing by with the details. Rima, take us through the rationale behind this proposed merger.
Thanks so much for that. Well, Sistema Sham is now a fringe player in the consolidated telecom industry with a market share of less than 1%, while for Reliance Communication, the market share, at least as per March, stood at close to about 5.4%. So even the merged entity would have a market share of 6.5%, which is so much lower than Bharti, Vodafone and Idea, which stands at 30, 24 and 18% respectively. The debt on the books, Arcom is burdened with a very high debt of close to about $6 billion, while for Sistema Sham, it's not confirmed, but it could be around that $600 million. Spectrum holding, this is where it's interesting. Sistema Sham, we understand, is 800 megahertz in 9 circles, which is liberalized, which means it can be used for 4G, while Reliance Communication has pan-India spectrum, but most of it comes up for renewal in the next 5 years. So what could be the key reason for the merger? One could be just perhaps the survival of these two small players. Now, Sistema Sham, as we pointed out, has liberalized 800 megahertz spectrum, which can be used for 4G, which is why Reliance Communication could be interested. And anyway, Arcom spectrum will be coming up for renewal progressively. Remember, if it's a share swap, a merger between the two will not cut down any of Reliance Communication's high deal. But bear in mind, just as an alert, Reliance Communication has been in talks with various players for various deals, and most of them have not fructified.
Thanks, Arima, for joining us with those details of the synergies between the two companies. Let's head to the Lal Street, which saw a steady start to this trading week. The bulls managed to avert a late attack by the bears to end the day in the green, but only with some marginal gains. Let's talk about the Nifty first. That gained over 30 points to reclaim 8,000. It closed 13 points above that level. Sensex, that surged over 160 points. In fact, that index was close to gaining 300 points in intraday trade, but the late slide wiped out some of those gains. Mid-caps underperformed in trade today, with that index managing to end barely in the green. And now to the currency markets, the Indian currency has maintained its losing streak today, ending the day above 64.15. The rupee, which for a large part of the day was mirroring the Indian equities, came under increasing pressure due to a rise in the dollar demand from importers, as well as a strengthening of the dollar. It ended the day down by about 10 paise in trade at a 1-month low.
Well, that was what happened in our markets, but on to the big global story. The deadlock between Greece and its creditors continues. For the second time, talks between lenders and the country's officials collapsed over the weekend, and this has raised fears of a default, and some even predicting that Greece could leave Eurozone, so the Grexit is back. But the finance minister of Greece has ruled out the possibility of leaving the currency union, however, has urged Germany to play a key role in the talks.
From a time standpoint, I think the fact that the Greece situation is happening now as opposed to 4 or 5 years ago is critically important. I think what everyone tried to do 5 years ago was sort of ring-fence this, buy themselves some time, give the banks the opportunity to sort of write some of this bad paper off to minimize the risk should there be an eventual default. So I think we're there now. Understand that the economic impact of Greece within the Eurozone is de minimis. I believe that their GDP contribution is less than 2%. So the impact of the United States is maybe a ripple on a pond. That doesn't mean that we may not see a 5%, 10% kind of knee-jerk market reaction based upon the headline risk associated with Greek defaults, goes back to the drachma, whatever, but I think the longer-term economic impact on the U.S. from a Greek default is going to be relatively well contained.
There is no success scenario for this country. For the last 5 years, we were told that this deal is going to fix the country and put it on a trajectory towards growth, and for the last 5 years, all these efforts failed. Until and unless Greek people accept that they need to reform their economy, that they need to reform their political system, that country is not becoming viable, and it is unsustainable for the rest of Europe to subsidize permanently Greece. So I have advocated the departure of Greece.
And that Greek drama is keeping investors across the globe on the edge. Stocks in Athens crashing over 5% today after talks collapsed and the debt deal remained elusive. And that's dropping off across Europe, with all the major indices ending with sharp cuts. That's the AFEX down by about 5%, but similar story playing out across the European markets. Look at the DAX down almost 2%. And across the Atlantic, stocks in the US not spared either. Wall Street has seen some sharp cuts, with the Dow down over 150 points at open. The Nasdaq now 0.5% lower. So the markets have recouped some of those losses. Now the Dow is 0.5% lower. Well, Nandara, what about crude? Well, the Greek deadlock has had its effect not just on the global equity markets, but crude prices as well, with the Brent and NYMEX taking a hit today. You have Brent at $62.64, NYMEX at $59.54 a barrel, and the possibility of the UN monitoring peace talks between Saudi Arabia and Yemen has also triggered hopes of an oversupply in the coming months, and that's why perhaps we're seeing crude prices under pressure. Back home, oil marketing companies have announced their fortnightly rejig of fuel prices. The price of diesel has been cut by over 1 rupee a litre. However,
However, petrol continues to get costlier. Prices have gone up by about 64 paise a litre. This is the third hike in petrol prices in just the last 2 months. The oil marketing company saying internationally the prices of petrol have gone up, while that of diesel has declined, and they're only following that trend.
All right, so crude is up, but inflation is down. Wholesale price index continues to contract. For the month of May, it's at minus 2.36%, and this is the 7th successive month of deflation. Food prices also slowing down, with the exception of pulses. We've seen a spike there. Lata joins us now with her analysis. Lata, the WPI largely in line with expectations.
Well, a tad less than expectation. If you want to split hairs, it's 2.36 against expectations of 2.46 minus, that is, and last month's 2.65. So prices are slowing, but they are slowing at a slowing pace. And hopefully we should start getting positive numbers in a bit. Well, food inflation rising only 3.8% is a positive, because in food we've had 5 years of inflation, and the fact that the main numbers did not go up despite a bad unseasonal rain in Rabi and the prospects of a poor Kharif, inflation expectations have not exacerbated the wholesale food prices. Actually, cereals prices have fallen month on month. Veggie prices have risen, but not as much as they rise every May. Year on year, veggie prices have actually fallen by 5.5%. Fuel prices have gone up. That's the other big category, but that's administered prices. We know petrol and diesel went up. Manufacturing prices year on year have actually fallen by 0.6% in May, compared to a 0.5% in April. So that gives a sense that, manufactured guys are simply not getting the prices that they gun for, but that's actually hiding a base effect. Month on month, if you see, May prices are actually 0.2% higher than April. So hopefully this disinflation is at an end, not anytime soon, but at least the pain is lessening.
Well, definitely that's something to do.
WPI shrinking for the 7th straight month. Thanks, Alnata, for joining us with that analysis. Now, there was one stock today that definitely was not under the weather. That's Sun TV Network. That stock closing up by almost 6% in trade. This on the back of the news that the Union Information and Broadcasting Ministries decided to seek the advice of the Law Ministry on the license cancellation issue. Earlier, the INB Ministry had found itself in a tight spot over an order asking the Maran family-run Kal Cables to stop operating. That's after the Home Ministry declined to give it security clearance. Ashwat Kumar has been tracking that story, now joins us with all of the details. Ashwat, we did report that the INB Ministry and the Home Ministry were not on the same page, so the Law Ministry could have the final say.
It appears so at this point, and as you correctly pointed out, there are divergent views with the MHA on one hand and the Ministry of INB on the other. And raising some of these issues, the Ministry of INB has moved the Law Ministry for their opinion. And now, importantly, there are a couple of issues that need to be looked at. The first issue that the Ministry of INB has raised is the binding nature of the MHA's refusal to grant security clearances. Now, mind you, there are previous instances, there are rules and procedures which clearly prescribe that in cases where the security clearance is not granted, it almost automatically translates into cancellation of the license. So that is something that the Law Ministry will be dwelling on. The second issue that the Ministry of INB has raised is the clubbing of 3 separate issues by the MHA. The 3 issues, namely, one being the issue of national security, 2 ongoing judicial proceedings, and 3 economic offences against the Marans. The Ministry of INB believes that all these 3 issues have been clubbed in the MHA arriving at that decision, and that is something that the Law Ministry will also be looking at. For now, what we understand is that the Law Ministry will be referring this matter to the Attorney General, who will then subsequently take a view given the facts of the case, and only then the Ministry of INB has reserved its decision, and only after the Attorney General and the Law Ministry clearly opine their view, crystallize the legal position, only then will we see further movement with the Ministry of INB taking a call on as far as the cancellation issue is concerned. Back to you.
Right, thanks, Ashwat, for joining us with all of those details. The Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi yet to submit his opinion to the government. Meanwhile, Foreign Investment Promotion Board of the FIPB has deferred Kotak Mahindra Bank's proposal to hike its FII limit yet again. The board, which met today, did discuss the proposal, but a final decision is yet to be taken. Kotak Mahindra Bank is looking to hike the foreign investment limit to 55%. That's after ING got a 6.5% stake in the bank post its deal to sell ING Vyasa Bank to Kotak, which in turn has taken the total foreign holding in the bank to 48.55%, triggering the present FII cap for Kotak Mahindra Bank. I think, Shireen, the Department of Financial Services is yet to submit its comment, and that's why the decision is deferred.
Absolutely, because it's something that impacts not just Kotak Mahindra Bank, but a lot of other companies, including people like HDFC, ICICI Bank, and their investments into their insurance arms. So this is going to be a story that the government will need to take a considered call on, and hence the delays or the deferrals as far as the FIPB is concerned. Now, the big national story. The opposition has sharpened its attack on the Modi government over the help extended to former IPL chief Lalit Modi to get travel documents from the British government. The Congress has dragged in the Prime Minister himself, with Rahul Gandhi leading the charge. He's accused Narendra Modi of protecting Lalit Modi, who's facing serious allegations of money laundering. Speaking to the media, Gandhi demanded that the Prime Minister should sack Sushma Swaraj.
No, it is not Sushma Swaraj who should only resign. Mr. Modi should sack Sushma Swaraj, because Mr. Modi has said that he is the protector. He is the person who's getting black money from outside. Mr. Lalit Modi is a symbol of black money outside. And now Mr. Modi, through Mr. Sushma Swaraj, is protecting him. What is this?
And the party standing behind
Of course the party will stand behind Sushma Swaraj. The party is Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is standing... One second. Mr. Modi is standing behind Mr. Modi. Who is Sushma Swaraj? Sushma Swaraj is a minor minister in the government. It means nothing in this government. There is only one man who's running this country and this government. That is Mr. Narendra Modi. And Mr. Narendra Modi should stop protecting Mr. Lalit Modi. Thank you.
Well, the Congress going after Sushma Swaraj and pushed to the wall. The BJP has rallied behind the External Affairs Minister. He has a report on how the action unfolded through the day today.
Youth Congress workers protesting outside External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj's New Delhi residence, demanding her resignation. Even as the minister in the eye of the storm continued with business as usual, choosing not to interact with the media in her first public appearance after the Lalit Modi visa controversy broke out. Not ready to let go of the issue, the Congress upped the ante and dragged the Prime Minister into this row.
Would any reasonable person believe that all these things were done without the consent of the Prime Minister of the country?
With the first impropriety storm hitting the Modi government in its very first year in office, the opposition is not ready to let go of it easily. Some taking a jibe that the External Affairs Minister could have been a victim of power play within the BJP's top leadership.
Prime Minister is absolutely quiet and silent. We are asking the Prime Minister to tell us how this is going to be addressed.
सारा विषय जांच का विषय है, बिंदु। ये सब देखें वो लोग, उनके पार्टी का मामला है और इसमें ज्यादा टीका टिप्पणी करने से कोई फायदा नहीं है।
For the BJP and the government, though it's a closed chapter, with BJP President Amit Shah and Home Minister Rajnath Singh dismissing any question of Sushma Swaraj's resignation and even defending her action, calling it a case of a humanitarian view.
Many within the BJP continue with their defense of the External Affairs Minister. But the biggest relief for Sushma Swaraj came from the otherwise difficult ally, the Shiv Sena.
मुझे नहीं लगता है कि सुषमा जी की तरफ से कोई बहुत बड़ी गलती हुई है.
With the opposition demanding that the Prime Minister explain if he knew about Sushma Swaraj's intervention in securing travel documents for Lalit Modi, a man wanted in FEMA cases, also coming out with details of the Portuguese law, which does not require a written consent from relatives for medical treatment. It remains to be seen how the government will deal with the storm that hit it on a Black Sunday. In New Delhi with Maria Shakil, this is Palki Sharma Upadhyay.
Well, the heat building there on Sushma Swaraj and Lalit Modi. On that note, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Do tune into CNBC TV 18 as we continue to track the market action. Of course, there's that crucial FOMC meeting. Then we've got the Greece story, which continues to unfold. There's lots of triggers to deal with. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with all the action.